Hello and welcome to That's Dope, the podcast where we talk about stuff that's dope. And today we have a special, nice short little episode for you guys talking about one of our favorite rappers, Childish Gambino.
Yeah, because we just saw a concert of his pretty recently.
Very recently.
Yeah, like last week, and we have some stories about that I guess we're going to share later on.
With another podcast, probably.
Yeah. But I guess today we're going to say why we like this guy, why would we even go to his concert, and, you know, why do we keep talking about him? I mean, I feel like we've talked about him 4 times at least,
definitely.
you know? Yeah.
Childish Gambino is one of those people who I guess we've casually thrown around his name. And I think it's kind of unfair that we haven't really done like
an expose on him.
Expose, yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh, that's a good word, expose.
Yeah, you know.
That's a really good word.
I got that vocabulary.
Maybe one day I'll talk real good like you does.
You know.
But I digress. For those of you who don't know, Childish Gambino is the rapper name for Donald Glover. Mm-hmm. And for those of you who don't know who Donald Glover is, dude basically does everything. Everything. He's best known definitely for his role as Troy on NBC's Community, which is one of my favorite shows of all time. Oh my God,
trying to get me into it.
It's so good. It's so good. But before that, he wrote for 30 Rock. He actually appeared in a couple of episodes as well. On top of that, he's also a really good stand-up comic, and he's also a really good rapper.
That was the first time I actually got to meet him, or, you know, I mean, like, be introduced to him was when he actually did a comedy sketch at our school, actually.
Yeah. And now that we'll definitely get to that in a second, for sure. But that was, you know, and it's not like he kind of does everything okay. No, he's really good at everything that he does in terms of writing and acting and comedy. He's really great.
But
we're not here to talk about that kind of stuff. We're here specifically to talk about his rap persona known as Childish Gambino. So basically, he came onto the scene around 2008. And he just released a bunch of mixtapes. I'm going to kind of glaze over them because, honestly, his mixtapes, they're okay. There wasn't anything in particular that made me go, oh, my God, this is great. I didn't have that, oh, my God, this is great moment until later on when I heard this one specific mixtape called Cul-de-sac. And I'll dive into that a little bit later on in the show. So he goes on. He's been doing a lot of independent work. And he finally gets signed by Glassnote. And that's when he releases his first big studio album, Camp. Camp came out in 2011, and it's a very, very interesting album. It kind of touches base on a lot of different concepts, gives you a lot of different feelings because, like we said before, this is a multifaceted character. This is not a guy who just does one thing or just feels one way the entire time. And a lot of that is reflected through Camp. So after Camp comes out, he later releases this other mixtape called Royalty, which was okay. And then more recently, an album that we've actually touched on in this podcast was Because the Internet, which ended up coming out at the end of 2013. So
had a lot of hype to it too.
Yeah, a lot of hype there too. Before we dive into all those albums individually, Godswill, how did you get introduced to Childish Gambino? What was your first Gambino moment? So
first of all, like I was saying before, like I first heard of Donald Glover, like when he actually came to UT Dallas. And he did a comedy sketch, and like it was amazing. Like it was like the most hyped about event like the whole year, you know.
Stand-up comedy.
Yeah, exactly. Like my freshman year, and like he came, and I was able to like I watched the show, I loved it, and like it sort of hit in a way like that. Like I understood, you know, because like he was talking about like being like a black nerd of sorts, you know, like or you know sort of being like the outside of things, you know. And it was like I understand that, you know, like I really dig that, and like I love the show. I got to take a picture with him. I thought that was pretty awesome.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah. And, you know, that's actually when I first met this guy because I saw him doing his rap and I was like, who's that dork? But then like, I was like, that's pretty cool. I don't know what he was doing. And then, yeah, I didn't watch Community, you know.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, you know.
No, I mean, not really as in like you don't know what I was doing, but we go that far back?
Yeah. I mean, like I was, because I remember like I was sitting at the, like I was volunteering with Swab and like I remember like, you know, like I would have to like get people like, you know, going in to like talk to Gambino or not to Glover, you know. And I remember you doing your rap and I was just like, that was pretty cool. I don't know what that was, but you know, you know, and I was like, okay, that's pretty cool. So then after that, I first heard about the EP like later on, and I didn't think that'd be any good, honestly. You know, I remember seeing like a video for Freaks and Geeks. I didn't watch it. But I was like, why would I want to watch this? You know, like I thought it would be like dorky, you know, like not like I thought it'd be like sort of nerd rap, honestly, you know? Yeah. Like, and like, even though I like nerd rap, like somehow, you know, like I didn't want to listen to it. I don't know. So later on, Camp comes out, and I started seeing it like on like some top 10 lists of like the, you know, best album that came out. And I was like, you know what? I'll listen to this. And I remember listening to it one Christmas break. Which Christmas break would it be?
2011 Christmas break.
Yeah, probably that one, if anything. Yeah. And I remember like turning on Outside as I'm playing Killzone 2, you know, and just like yeah, like I remember it pretty vividly. And then I remember falling in love with Outside. I was like, I feel these things. And then Firefly came on. I was like, I understand this. And then Bonfire came on. I was like, oh my God, this goes so hard. And then I just kept going one after the other, and loving like almost all the songs. And then I got to that Power, and that I was just like, I know what he's talking about. And then that was when I became a Childish Gambino fan. I went back and I listened to Freaks and Geeks, and I loved it. I was like, that was so funny and great. And I even showed my brother. Like, I remember like we were driving like one day and just talking about like how funny the rap was. And ever since then, I became like a Childish Gambino fan. And then I saw him in concert 2012 probably.
Oh,
yeah.
wow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I loved that concert. Like that was a good concert. Even though I had like a sort of awkward moment where like there was this girl that I was interested in, and she seemed like she was digging me too, and then I didn't like touch her like in a wrong way or nothing. Like I touched her at the hip, you know, because someone was pushing. I was like, oh, you know who? And then ever since then, she gave me the cold shoulder, and I was like, oh, and I can't forget that for some reason. I don't know, but the concert went ham, and I was like, this is awesome. I love this guy. He's awesome.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
For lack of a better word, that's awesome.
Yeah, appreciate it. I was wondering if you're making fun of me or not.
No. Honestly,
Yeah.
honestly, for me, it's really crazy because, like, this was before we even met, and you kind of saw me doing my thing.
Yeah, I remember it pretty vividly because like I saw you to like my left, and I was just like, I remember like everyone was just stopping and watching you as you were doing this with Don Glover, and I was like, that's really cool.
Maybe I should fill in everybody else exactly on what's the video that we're talking about. When Donald Glover came to UTD, by the grace of God, at the last minute, originally you were supposed to have tickets and all that, and I didn't find out about it until all the tickets were all gone. All gone. And I was just so sad. I posted this angry message on Facebook. I was like, the one time my school does something cool, and I am left out of the loop. This is the worst. So it's the day of his stand-up show, and I get a knock on my door, and I'm sulking pretty hardcore, I'm not gonna lie. And it's this girl that I had a crush on my freshman year, and she's like, "So me and my friend aren't gonna be able to go, so here's 2 tickets. You can thank me later." I was like, "Girl, I'm gonna thank you now." Oh my God. Oh man, like so. Last minute, me and my buddy Preetam, we go to the stand-up show. And during this time, I'm doing a lot of YouTube stuff, different YouTube stuff than podcast type things.
Like, what? You were doing stuff before? What about us? No, yeah, right.
I used to do vlogs back in the day. And I was talking to Preetam. I was like, man, I just got to get him on the vlog, you know? And he was like, man, you should do something cool. And I was like, what can I do? And he was like, well, why don't you do that rap with him? You know, you know all the words to the Spanish rap from that episode of Community. I'm like, yeah, you're right. Donde está la biblioteca? I'm pretty good at that, I guess. And so I wait in line, and after the show, he's signing autographs, and I'm like in the middle of the line. And then he's like, okay, there's a lot of people here, but I'm going to stay here till every autograph is signed. And I was like, man, what a great guy. That was the second thought. The first thought was, I need to get to the back of this line right now so that it'll be as quiet as possible whenever I record this. Because I had this crappy old camera, you know. And so I just had to make it work. And so I just run to the back of the line, and I'm just like getting hyped. You know, time passes, and there he is. He's finally there. And I'm just so nervous. And I asked him, I was like, wondering if you'd like to do this for my vlog. And he's just like, yeah, sure, let's make it happen. I was like, what? And so we do the rap, and it just blows up. Like right now it's at like 130,000 hits, which is the most hits I've ever gotten on anything. And I was just like, wow, this is awesome. And, we'll talk about this later, but it was definitely one of those big defining moments in college that really pulled me out of my shell and made me who I am today. But that's something that we'll talk about in another podcast. For this podcast, we're talking about how we got into Gambino afterward. So there's all this hype that's being passed around at this point, what with me performing with Donald Glover, and I'm just kind of a little bit obsessed right now. I'm like, what else does he do? And I found out that he raps as well. And this event happens shortly after EP comes out. And so I look into EP, Freaks and Geeks, just like you, Freaks and Geeks. I kicked it off with Freaks and Geeks. And so I picked up EP and I just loved it. I looked at Cul-de-sac. Man, I loved that as well. Like, it was just great, and so ever since then I've always been a Donald Glover fan, but then like shortly after I was a Childish Gambino fan as well. So it's really awesome that we have such similar stories in such weird ways.
Yeah, right.
How it's like because of this event, because he came to our school, we were able to dive in a little further.
Yeah.
And I guess that's us kind of passing the torch a little bit.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people, they didn't have that
Still
opportunity.
don't. Yeah.
But we did, and so trust me, like when I go on and say this, it might sound like I'm coming from a fanboy perspective, but from a legitimate like critical eye, Donald Glover is someone you need to watch out for, especially his raps.
Exactly, he's blowing up,
in. So I guess we'll touch on that a little bit. You started discussing some of the feelings that you got when you listened to Camp. What are the reasons why you prefer Gambino, and why do you think that he's going to be the next big thing in rap?
Okay, so like for me, is like, well, first of all, demographics like are just changing. Like, where it's not all about like the hood. Yeah, man from the streets. I mean,
yeah, and that's something that we touched on in the Kanye podcast. Actually, how when Kanye released Graduation, in contrast to 50 Cent's album Curtis, gangster rap versus Kanye rap.
It's like, for better words, like what do you call Kanye's genre? I guess. But yeah, I mean, like, so for me, it's like, all you guys should know by now, I mean, we did just do a few episodes over anime, like that, I'm a big old nerd, and like,
I am too.
Like for anyone to like sort of like recognize that and, be like, what, I'm a nerd too, I really dig that. And like from like his music, like how he's like, yeah, I'm different. I'm different. I'm sorry. I can't. You're the one who got me into. You're the one who got me into doing that.
I didn't get you into 2 Chainz. I hate 2 Chainz.
You're the one who.
2 Chainz per se. Just, drunk and high at the same time, drinking champagne on the airplane. Like, dude is always hungry. But we'll talk about 2 Chainz some other time.
Oh Lord,
we're not gonna dedicate a podcast to 2 Chainz. Hell no.
Right. So, anyways, like like hearing like outside, that sort of like rawness. Like immediately, like, and it just kept continuing, and then, just sort of like, it's like he shared like the feelings I felt, like I remember like one of the lyrics that stands out to me, like for the whole like camp, like shout out to my blurs, they recognize the realness, and I was just like, he's talking to me, it's just like, wow, like no one ever talks to the black nerds, like we're like the sort of invisible people.
It's true.
Yeah, because everyone's like expecting us to be like hardcore. I mean, you don't understand. Like that's a whole nother discussion, I guess. Like people expect me to be being black, I guess. But it's like here's someone who understands. No, it's like just because you're black doesn't mean you're like this, and it was that, and then also it was honestly like I saw skill, like he has a lot of skill. I mean, like thinking something more recently, like with his Pound Cake freestyle, or it sounds like he's just talking, but he's actually like really rapping very well, and like doing it live, it doesn't sound like it sounds like as if there's something on his album. No, it's a freestyle, and like he has skill where he's able just to come up with raps just like that, and it's amazing, and the subject matter is different, the way he does it is different, honestly, like you might know him as a comedian, but like his stuff is just amazing. I feel, I mean, like what got you into Gambino?
I mean, I guess for me, a lot of very similar thoughts. I've kind of felt that, I mean, I can't say that being a blurred is something I identify with because I am not black, though I am a nerd.
Yeah.
But one of the big things, especially with the South Indian community, specifically like my South Indian community, is a lot of the kids try to be really hood, like really hood. And a big thing for me, and I guess we'll touch on this later on a more personal podcast, but a big thing for me growing up is that I felt like I had to be 3 different people at all times. I had to be who my parents wanted to be. I had to be what the people at my public school wanted me to be. And then I had to be what my Indian friends wanted me to be. And I just felt like a lot of the times I couldn't be any of those people perfectly. Like I just couldn't be those people. Like it was so bad. It was bad for me. Like it was just not good for me. Who I am now is great. I can be who I am with every group and they're all just cool with it because I'm 100% me.
Yeah.
But I understand where you're coming from, where it's like you are that weird invisible demographic. Everyone else is talking about, hood shit, and I'm just like, video games, right?
right.
And like everyone in especially in like the South Indian community that I'm in is crazy about basketball, and I like basketball, but not to like the extent that everyone else is crazy about, and I was that unathletic, kind of gangly, uncoordinated kid who I just had a hard time fitting in, and it felt like when I listened to Gambino, like he got that, where it's like you don't fit in necessarily with what your stereotypes and what your people want you to be perfectly, but you just try to be you, and it's so difficult because the outside world, the people who are outside of your race won't accept you either, And so I understood those feelings. Those feelings resonated very deep within me. And I appreciate the fact that Gambino can rap about that kind of stuff because it's something that resonates with me, even though I'm not a black nerd. I'm a brown nerd in a community that's trying to be black.
Right. Yeah.
So I get that.
You do.
So I definitely get that. And like you said, his skill wise, he's so good. He has a line took the G out your waffle. All you got left is your ego. Think about that for a second.
Right.
It's so clever.
That took me a few listens too.
It's
and like,
so
but
clever.
that song, even that song, like Bonfire, just keeps on going hard. Like where it's not just like, oh, there's only one clever line or two. The whole freaking song is just clever, It's just, that's the thing. It's just like just good stuff, honestly. Yeah. So.
And I remember Pitchfork did a review of Camp, which is pretty infamous. It gave Camp a 1.3 or something, and you just. Like, what's wrong with you? But then again, they gave Waka Flocka's new album like an 8.5. So I mean, I'm not sure if we can trust their hip hop judging skills. But I digress. One of the big criticisms that's not just from Pitchfork, but that's from a lot of different people, I feel, is he's a very inconsistent rapper, especially in Camp. He's a relatively inconsistent rapper. He'll talk about something funny, but then he'll talk about something that's heartfelt and true. And a lot of people are like, he's not consistent. Well, I'm like, well, real life and your feelings aren't consistent. Yeah, right. Like I can be happy on the outside and I can make jokes to hide the fact that I feel like shit on the inside. That's something that I'm very familiar with. I'm sorry to say, but that's something I'm very familiar with. I appreciate the fact that when he writes, he brings in every asset of himself. There's not just like, oh, time to turn on my Childish Gambino brain. Oh, time to turn on my Donald Glover, the comedian brain. Oh, time to turn on my Troy Barnes brain. Like, no, it's not like that.
He is who he is.
He is himself in his raps. I feel like he is himself 100% to the fullest, to the point where he makes funny punchlines in his rap. He mentions that in an interview, actually, how rap can be funny sometimes. Ludacris, with his Number One Spot, that song, he did the beat off of Austin Powers. Remember?
Which song?
Number One Spot.
I haven't heard that one.
Oh, you haven't heard Number One Spot?
No.
I know you have. It's got the.
Maybe I have.
It's got the.
Oh, okay.
It's the beat is sampled from Austin Powers. It's crazy.
That's funny.
And
okay.
it's cool that Gambino incorporates so many sides of himself to make a product. Which is something that I identify with too, because I'm not just one person. I've never been one person my entire life, per se. I've never fit like this standard. And for someone to make something that incorporates all of himself, like I appreciate that a lot. And so that's why with Cul-de-sac and with Camp EP, like I love those albums and those mixtapes because they represent who I am to some extent. Not just one pigeonholed, one kind of person, but someone with a lot of different feelings that change often. And so, yeah.
That's a good point. I mean, right now, like I am just sort of thinking is like, man, how come some people, like quite a few people don't like Camp? And it's like, geez. Like, I mean, I guess I couldn't take him seriously, but like, well, it doesn't really matter. Everyone's entitled to their own opinions.
Definitely.
And then, now he's come up with Because of the Internet, and it's honestly a pretty great thing.
It's a good album.
It's a whole big old project now, like where he is showing like how many different sides he has to himself right now, and I guess like his own sort of, I guess, emotional state right now. It's pretty deep. Yeah. Childish Gambino for y'all. All right.
It's a very personal project. You know, but yeah, I guess in the end of the day, like, what is it that makes Gambino the next big thing for you? Aside from the demographics.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it's it's how he's taking it to a whole nother level. You know, like it's like he's creating like a whole nother genre. Honestly, like, you know, like how you had gangster rap back then, like how that changed, you know, hip hop, or, you know, hip hop from being like the sort of, you know, cheese and potatoes, respect your parents, yeah, you know, like whatever, you know, sort of corny, to like, you know, hood, you know, like hard and like, yeah, what is the streets, son?
You gonna Krista Elliott, you probably gonna die by the end of this song.
Right? Yeah, definitely.
You're not gonna make it.
Yeah, right.
It gonna be 3 minutes. You will get killed. Yeah,
pretty much. I mean, like, that's how it was, you know, like, and that changed hip hop, you know, from, you know, what it was to that, and now here is Gambino, sort of leading the charge into like a whole other genre where it's like, this is who I am, in a sense, you know, like, like, I don't know what it's gonna be called or whatever, but, you know, I feel like it's a force. You know, he's leading it, and he's the one who's showing people it can be done in a good way. It can be done with skills. It can be taken seriously. It's a real thing. I think that's why Gambino's the next big thing.
Yeah, I see Gambino almost as, for lack of a better term, a disciple of Kanye.
Yeah,
in the sense that he is very much himself. He's not something that fits a certain standard that a lot of the music industry is trying to market, per se.
Yeah.
And he just does himself. And that carries over in his music very well, especially when you look at Kanye's production. Kanye does weird things that no one really thinks of. Gambino also does a lot of really interesting things. In Cul-de-sac, for example, one of my favorite tracks by him is Hero.
Yeah.
And he has just this awesome orchestral backing to it. I'm just like, wow.
Yeah.
You know, and it's very interesting production choices, very interesting style and lyricism choices that make him such a unique product in my eyes. With that in mind, I guess, segueing off of that, do you have any particular tracks that stand out? You've talked about a couple of them.
Like,
any others?
I really like Not Going Back. For me, like, that's like a sort of anthem. I don't want to go back to like painful, shy days, you know, whereas like I couldn't like express who I am. You know, like how I want to just keep going forward. I really enjoyed, like on camp, I really enjoyed Firefly, Outside, and That Power. Those were like great songs to me.
Oh yeah.
And then I really like Telegraph Avenue. And then I like Crawl. I don't know, like that just seems like the song that's like,
hype
wow.
Song.
Yeah, exactly. It gets me hype.
Put a plus 18 on the e-bike.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess those are like my songs, but Camp is like my album. That's where I really like.
And all the songs that you mentioned, I really like a lot too. I'm going to mention some tracks that are outside of those. Freaks and Geeks, of course.
Of course, yeah, I can't believe
Of course,
you
Freaks
that.
and Geeks. Of course, Freaks and Geeks. We'll put a link to his Freaks and Geeks music video. It's a very simple, minimalistic music video, but
he did one take, right?
It's I think it's just one take. But it's just awesome. It's just raw emotion and raw power, which I appreciate. Definitely Freaks and Geeks. I really like Hero, like I mentioned before, but I also like Fuck It All and The Last, which are on Cul-de-sac, which is a free mixtape. There'll probably be a link of that that'll probably surface up on our Facebook page. So follow us on there if you're not already. Shameless plug aside.
Right?
Shameless plug aside, off of his mixtape Royalty, which overall the mixtape is okay, but it's too many chefs ruining a dish in my opinion. Off of Royalty, I love American Royalty. It's such a good track.
That song is great.
Such a good track. It samples,
led me to my favorite song.
Yeah, it samples Hypnotic Brass Ensemble's War, and it's just great. It gets you so hyped. It gets you so hyped. And off of Because the Internet, Sweatpants. I cannot say this enough.
Oh, yeah.
Sweatpants makes me just jam out in my car every time. Every time.
I like 3005 also.
2005 is also great. He says, that's the thing. It's hard to say just your favorite songs because he has a lot of really good tracks. And similar to Kanye, there really aren't any tracks where you're just like, this is garbage. What are you doing?
Yeah.
You know? Everything at its worst is okay. You know, and at its best is really, really good and really fun to listen to.
Exactly.
But yeah, we'll have a Spotify playlist as well for those of you who are Spotify type people with the tracks that we've mentioned. I guess in conclusion, do you have any closing thoughts?
Start listening to him if you don't already. Check out. I mean, I feel like a lot of people slept on Cul-de-sac. I mean, I sort of have myself, and I'm definitely gonna go check it out. Some more. I mean, like I have it. I just really haven't paid too much attention to it. And just be open to him. I guess it's a whole nother thing. Give it a chance. Actually, do some research into the lyrics. Like I think you will enjoy it. And also because the internet, I was definitely say watch the read the screenplay, and if you have some time, because it's pretty enjoyable. I feel.
Yeah. I guess my closing thoughts are, it's weird, I guess. Like, it's very strange. You hear about Don Glover and you recognize him as just Troy, or just that stand-up comic, or the writer from Mystery Team. And it's hard sometimes, I guess, to separate things.
Yeah.
But in the end, that's not the point. Isn't to separate necessarily. It's just to accept that we have this individual, and he can't just be just one thing. He just can't, and it's not fair for us as the listener or the audience or the viewer or however you want to interpret the event that is listening to Gambino to just pigeonhole him in that area, in that aspect. You do yourself a disservice and you do the artist a disservice as well. And so I think above all else, you just need to take it all in, all of it, every aspect of it. And that's something that Gambino does very, very well.
Yeah, exactly.
Very well. And I expect great things.
Yeah.
Very great things. He's already making waves, but I expect even bigger waves.
Yeah, me too. I'm pretty excited to see what the future brings.
Excellent. I guess with that in mind, that pretty much wraps up our show for today. As always, we appreciate your comments, so feel free to comment below on your favorite Gambino track. If you had a Gambino moment like we did, please share that with us in the comments or on Facebook. Our links or how to contact us are in the description, and if you would like to listen to more episodes, we'll have an annotation right now on how you can listen to more episodes. With that in mind, stay dope, folks, and have a great day.
Yes, sir. See you later.